Hi, today we're going to talk about the FSA TI30XA calculator. Let's go ahead and get started. Here you can see here on the screen the TI30XA calculator. We're going to go ahead and look at a few of the buttons that are on this page. So let's talk about an overview of the calculator. First of all, we have the on key. The on key. So I want to just go ahead and highlight that for you, the on key. The purpose of the on key is to clear the display, but it does not clear the memory. And it also retrieves anything that you left in there. So after about 5 minutes of not being used, it would automatically shut off. But no worries, because if you just press on, then it will bring back up the very last thing that was in the system, the last thing that you entered. So let's go ahead and just play with that key real quick so that we're going to use this key right here, the key right here. So let's go ahead and press that. And we have on. How do we turn this off? Well, let's talk about the off key for a second. Here we have the off button, and the off key clears the display. It clears the settings and any pending operations. But it does not clear your memory. So if there's something that you've left in memory, you'll know if there's something in memory because it'll have a little M at the top of the screen. There's 3 memory locations. You have memory 1, memory 2, and there's also a memory 3. Right now we're showing memory 1. If you press the off key, it will clear everything. It will clear your display. It will clear the settings, whatever settings you have it set on, and it will also clear out any pending operations. So if you enter something, if you press off, it will clear it. However, if you enter a value and it cuts off on its own after 5 minutes, all you have to do is press on again and the information will still be there. If you if you press off, then it will be permanently deleted. Okay, so let's just go ahead and press off, and we can press on again and off and on again. So very good. We understand how to press off and on, understanding what the functions of those are. Okay, on is also for clearing your screen, for getting rid of anything that you have entered. All right, now APD is what I just finished explaining to you. It's the automatic power down, and it will turn off, like I said, after 5 minutes, but it does not clear your display. So if I have something in here and it's been 5 minutes and it cuts off, it's okay. It is going to still be there when you turn it back on. All right. Now, this here is called the result window. We will refer to this as maybe the result window. We may also call it the display. It can hold up to 10 digits, plus or minus. So real quick, if I show you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I can put a negative sign. This here is our positive negative key. We'll review that more in a little bit. I can insert that, and there you have your digits. I can also add a 0 for my 10th digit. So it holds 10 digits plus a negative sign. All right. Now here, the loud green is the second key. That second key allows us to access additional functions. So let's look at a few of those functions that it gives us access to. If we're looking here at the second key, if all second keys are in green. So if I want to, for example, if I want to put 10 to the third power, we all know 10 to the third power is 10 times 10 times 10, which is 1,000. I'm going to go ahead and clear out my functions, clear out my display, and clear out my memory, or not my memory, but everything but my memory. And I want to do 10 to the third power. So I'm going to press 3, hit second, and hit the log key because I really want to access what's above that, which is 10 to the third, or 10 to the x. And there you have it. I have 1,000. It actually did the multiplication for me. So 10 to any power, if we want to multiply that, then all we have to do or evaluate that power. All we have to do is press second and then that key. So it accesses the anything in green. So anytime we want to access anything in green, we have to press the second key first. Something else that we can do here above the number 1 key, if you look closely, let me see if I can give me just one moment. I'm going to zoom in on that real quick. If you see right here above the 1 key, it says x to the 3rd power. So again, that's another way to cube something, another way to evaluate any value raised to the 3rd power. So if I want to do 10 to the 3rd power, I would enter 10. And then because I want to access the key that is above, the function that is above the number 1, then I will press second and I will press 1. And there you have it, 1,000. So that's very easy to do, but just wanted you to get a feel for what that second key represents. All right. So now moving on. Last thing is delete. So I want to show you what that delete function looks like. So let's say, for example, that I was entering some numbers. I'm entering 1 through 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oops, I made a mistake. So I didn't mean to enter 8. I meant to enter 9. Well, the cool thing about this calculator is that it has a delete button, which means that you don't have to clear it out and start all over. You can simply press the delete button. It will backspace 1, same as delete does on a calculator, on a keyboard. And then now I can put the correct value there. Okay, so delete is this arrow backwards. Let's go ahead and use that. Play with that a little bit, and that is how we get rid of digits. Can I delete more than 1 digit? Absolutely. I can go all the way back to the beginning and start all over again, entering all of my values. Alrighty, so that's a cool function. Let's go ahead and go to our next slide. So now the first thing you want to do before you begin using the calculator at all is you want to make sure that you clear everything out. So we talked about what the function of the on key was. On clears whatever it is that you have on your screen. If there was an operation you had pending, it will also clear that. The off button will do the same thing, clearing everything kind of out for you, including all of your functions except for memory. How do we then get rid of memory? If someone used the calculator before you and left something in memory and you accidentally press this button, which is called recall, it will bring back whatever you put in your memory. So if I put recall 1, it brings up 15 because this is the memory 1. So I saved something under memory 1. Let me just give you an example of that. I'm going to go ahead and clear that out. Let's say, for example, I entered 25 and I wanted to store that number because I can't remember that number and I want to use it for my next operation. So if I wanted to save that number, I could press store and then 2. And did you see what happened? Memory 2 came up. So that means under M2 is the number 25. So now I'm going to go ahead and clear everything out except for my memory, of course, because remember, on does not clear our memory and neither does off. Off does not clear our memory either. And I want to prove that to you. So I'm going to cut the calculator off and then I'm going to bring the calculator back on. And when I do that, you notice that the M1 and M2 is still there in my screen. So that means they have not been cleared out. So how do we get rid of those? Well, first of all, I want to show you how to bring it back. So the number we stored was 25. So let's say I did some more calculations and I found a value of 5. So I want to do 5 plus my original number that I stored, which was in memory 2, which was 25. So I'm going to press recall, RCL, recall whatever you stored, whatever you saved in memory. And I'm going to press 2. Notice the 25 pops up. So recall 2 brought back my original. I already added 5 to it. So now I just press equals and it gives me 30. So the purpose of the memory button, or in this case, it's called store. How do I store a value? How do I save a value for later? That is our memory, and we will see that when we're here. So if I want to save something in memory 1, I'll press whatever number I get, I'll press store, and then I'm going to press 3. So now I have 30 saved under memory 3. If I want to recall a value, I'm going to go ahead and clear that out. All I have to press is recall, and then I can press 3, and it brings back the value 30. If I clear that out, let's say I meant to recall the second value. Then I can put recall, and I can press 2, and it brings back my second value. Now I want to add that to the third value that I saved. So I'm going to press plus, and I'm going to put recall 3, which was 30, and now I'm going to press equal to put those two together. And now I'm going to add them to the very last one, the first one that I saved, which was in memory 1. So I'm going to press recall, and I'm going to press 1, and then I'm going to press equals, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't add it back, plus recall 2 equals plus recall 3 equals, and there's my values all added together. All right, so we're going to go ahead and clear that out. Now, my purpose of this was to show you how to clear the memory. Now that we know how to use memory to save, store, and recall, we also need to understand how to clear the memory, because I don't want those sitting there, because I don't want to accidentally add those numbers into my calculation. So how do I clear my memories? Well, it's pretty simple. All we have to do to clear memory is one extra step. I'm going to press 0. Then I'm going to press store, and then I'm going to press 1. Notice my first memory disappeared. I want my memory 1 to be a value of 0. So I'm going to enter 0. I'm going to store that in memory 1. I have to do the same thing for the rest. So I'm going to enter 0. Then I'm going to press store. And then I'm going to press 2. I'm going to do that one more time. I'm going to press 0. I'm going to press store. And then I'm pressing 3. Now all 3 of my memories have been cleared, and now I can move on. So we just figured out how to clear memory. Again, clearing memory is 0, store key, and 1 or 2 or 3, depending on which memory I want to clear. Something else that I want to talk to you about is making sure that your calculator is always on DEG. That means degrees. Everything we deal with, mostly as far as the math we're concerned with today, is degrees. You have other options, but we want to leave it always in degrees. There's other ways in which our values can be calculated, if it's under radians or something different, but we want it to always be in degrees for what we're doing for FSA. So let's make sure that we press this button here and it changes what function we're in or how we're looking at our numbers. So we want our numbers to always be under DEG, which is degrees. All right, so now let's go ahead and move on. All right, so now let's talk about basic arithmetic. All right, so we're going to, for this part or this session, this part of the session, we are going to be entering operations, just playing with operations. When I say operations, I'm speaking of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And these are our 4 keys here: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. I'm also going to talk about the equal sign, which is here. After you enter a operation, you want to press equal so that it can compute that. I also want to talk about the negative and positive. And we talked about earlier how you can change a number from negative to positive. I want to talk about pi, and then I want to talk about fixing a function. So let's go ahead and look at the next slide. Let's go ahead and enter a function or enter an operation. So let's enter the operation 3 plus 4 minus 1. If we do that in our head, 3 plus 4 is 7, minus 1 is 6. Let's see what happens. If we put 3 plus 4, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't calculate. Minus, now it calculates. 1, it's not going to do anything. We have to press equal. So let's press the equal sign and we get 6. We could have also done 3 plus 4 equals, and then subtracted 1. So if we look at the basic arithmetic and we entered all these values. So let's go ahead and enter some values. 3 plus 4 minus 1. Then I'm going to do 3 plus 4 minus 1 equals. And then I want to just play with the negative sign. So let's start with the 3 plus 4. I think we did that already. Let's go down to negative and positive. So let's enter negative 1. How do we enter negative 1? We're going to, first let's cut it on. And then we're going to press a 1 and we're going to hit the negative key. And that's how we enter negative 1. All right, let's go ahead and clear that back out. And if we do it again, we want to do 4 plus negative 1. So we're going to press 4 and then we're going to hit plus, and then we're going to hit a 1 and hit the negative key. And notice it'll just say negative 1. Now we want to press enter so that it's equal, so that it gives us the actual value, and the actual value is 3. Let's go ahead and try this last problem here. 3 plus 4 plus negative 1. I'm going to clear this out. Then I'm going to press 3 plus 4 plus 1, hit the negative key, and then I'm going to press equal. And that gives us our value. So make sure you press equal when you finish so that it gives you your total value at the end. Now I'm going to go over parentheses very briefly because you don't really have to use parentheses if you know how to use order of operations. You don't have to enter it into your calculator. However, I do want to show you how we enter that. So if we're doing parentheses, we're going to press, just as we see here, 3, then open parentheses, which can be found right here above the 8, open parenthesis, 4 minus 1. And if you notice in the very top corner here, it shows us that we're dealing with parentheses. I'm going to go ahead and close that parenthesis out. And then press equal. Oh, did I not get my value? Let's try it again. 3, open parenthesis. Oh, I'm sorry. 3 times, open parenthesis, 4 minus 1, close parenthesis, equals. My apologies. Forgot the times. All right, so that's how we get our value. Now let's talk about pi real quick. If you look here, you'll see the pi symbol. The pi symbol is 2 below the second symbol. That's our pi symbol. So we want to go ahead, let's clear this out. And let's press the pi symbol and see what we get. We should get something like 3.141592654. Yeah, I don't know that by heart. 654 is easy. 3.14159 and then a 2 and then 654. You can remember that. All right, so we got pi. So now I want to show you something real quick with fixing digits. If you look right here, it says fixing digits. That means, let's say, for example, you got this result and it has 9 digits to it, and your instructions say round to the nearest tenths. Well, tenths I know is 1 decimal place. Hundreds is 2 decimal places. Thousands is 3 decimal places. So let's say it was to tell us that we need to do 3 decimal places, thousands, okay? Then what I would press in order to get thousands places, I would press fix first. And if you look right here, where is the fix? The fix is right above the decimal point. Here's the fix. So if I want to round my decimal, not necessarily round it, but if I want to cut it down to a certain number of points, then what I can do, if I say 3 decimal places is all I want, then I'm going to press the second key. And you'll notice that when you press second, second pops up on your screen here, second. And then I'm going to press the fix key. and then I'm going to press 3. And when I press the number 3, it changes to 3 decimal places. Just that simple. It's still in fixed mode. So everything is going to be at 3 decimal places. Everything. If I press second, fix, it goes back to the 3 decimal places that I originally had. If I want to clear that out, anybody remember what I need to press to clear that out? Let's go ahead and press clear. I have to cut it off because clear does not clear it. And I'm going to press it back on to get rid of that fix. All right, so to get rid of any of those type of functions, we have to make sure that we cut it off and back on. All right, now I want to look at, I can kind of go past this combining integers because we kind of talked about that a little bit already, how we put these numbers together. Let's just do these real quick. We can do, for addition of integers, just 3 plus 4, and then we press equal, giving you some time to do it. And then we get 7. We're going to clear that out. We're going to do 3 minus 4, which should give us what? -1. Press equal. What do we get? -1. All right, let's clear that out. Let's do 3 times 4. What is that going to give us? It gives us 12. I want to switch that up a little bit. I said integers, so let's do some negatives. I want to do 3 times -4. So let's do 3 times 4. Get some practice with these negative buttons. Press negative, and then press equal. And then we get what? -12. All right. Now let's go ahead and play with the division a little bit. Let's make this first one -6 divided by 2. So what do we press? Clear it out. We're going to press 6. Make that 6 negative. And then we're going to put divided by 2. And what do we get? We get -3. All right. Let's go ahead and clear that out. And let's do 3 divided by 4. What do you think we'll get when we do 3 divided by 4? We get 0.75, which is a decimal. It is a decimal. And next, we're going to move into how we enter fractions. But I want to, before we get there, I want to just go ahead and talk about how we can change this decimal to a fraction while I'm here. So let's talk about changing decimals to fractions. So if you look here, you'll see a key here next to, above your delete key. Above delete is the F to D key. That means from fractions to decimals and back to fractions. Fractions to decimals and back to fractions. So I currently have, how do I access that key? I need to press the second key. So I currently have a decimal of 0.75. And I want to change that to a fraction. So I'm going to press second. And I'm going to press the delete key. And notice what it did. If you pay attention, this backward shape L is actually representing a fraction bar. It's not just a straight line or a hyphen that's below. It is a backwards L. That means fraction. So this is actually 3/4. Let's try again. If I clear this out and I want to enter the last one we have here, 1 divided by 4. Well, that's the same thing as 1/4. So if I enter that in my calculator, it's immediately going to give me a decimal. So I'm going to do 1 divided by 4 equals, and it gives me my decimal, which is what? Very good, 0.25. Now I want to change that, so I'm going to press second, and I want that in the form of a fraction. So I'm going to press the F to D key, which is really the delete, and it gave me 1/4. I want to change that back to a decimal because I didn't mean to have a fraction. So I'm going to press second, and I'm going to press that back delete key again, And what does it give me? It gives me back to 1/4. So to change between a decimal and a fraction, we just simply do the FD key, which requires for us to press the second key. All right, so let's move on. Talking about entering fractions. So now we want to enter fractions. We have different types of fractions. We have unit fractions, we have proper fractions, we have improper fractions, we have mixed numbers. But we can use the same key for all of those if we wish to. But I want to show you something really quickly. If we have unit fractions. So a unit fraction is any fraction that has a 1 in the numerator. So a unit fraction can be entered just with the, I'm going to clear this out. It can be entered just by using the key 1/x. So we just discovered 1/4, right? It's 0.25. So if I press, why did I get an error? I'm going to get an error if I press the key without pressing what I want to be in the value of x. So even though it seems like we would press that key first, we don't. We are supposed to, let's go ahead and clear that out. Let's press the 4 first, and then let's hit that key. And what is 1/4 as a decimal? It is 0.25. So therefore, 1/4 is 0.25. Let's try another one. What about 1/10? Let's clear that out. How am I going to enter? Am I going to hit the button first, or am I going to press 10 first? I'm going to press 10 first. So I'm going to hit 10, and then I'm going to hit the unit fraction key, and look what it gave me. If I hit that, what is 1/10 as a decimal? It is 0.10. Now, I don't like how that looks, and I want it to have 2 decimal places. Let's see if we can change the number of decimal places by fixing it. So if I go second, and I press fix, and then I hit 2, look what it did. What does it give me? What should I see on the screen? It gives me 2 decimal places. So what is the same thing as 0.1? 0.10. So that's really 10%. All right? All right, great. So let's go ahead and look at entering fractions, period. So if we were to enter regular fractions, and how do I get rid of this fix that is on my screen? What do I do? Because clear will not clear out the fix, and I don't want everything with 2 decimal places. So how do I clear that out? I have to turn it off, and then I turn it back on, and that clears that out. So now if we go ahead and look at, I want to look at the next one. So if we go ahead and look at our proper fractions, there is a button that we can use to enter any type of fraction that we have. And that's going to be this nice little button right here, our ABC button. It helps us to enter proper fractions, improper fractions, and mixed numbers. Does not matter. It's just a matter of entering a number and then pressing the button. So let's go ahead and enter, say 3/4. Let's enter 3/4. If we enter 3/4, we're going to press 3. And then we're going to hit the fraction key. And then we're going to hit 4. And what you see on the screen is 3/4. All right, let's clear that out. Let's enter 5/3. 5, fraction key, 3. Press enter. If I press enter, what happens? What do you see? Notice the difference between this symbol and this symbol. The backwards L represents a fraction mark. So this is 2/3. Why is this here with this? That means 1 2/3. So 5/3 is an improper fraction. So if it was changed to a mixed number, it would be 1 2/3. Well, how do I change back? Because I don't want a mixed number. I want an improper fraction. So if I want an improper fraction, I have to change that back. Watch what we're going to do. We're going to press the second key, and then we're going to access this key right here because we want to access this D over C. This D over C right here is actually going to represent us changing back to an improper fraction. So we press second key. Let's hit that key, and look what it does. It takes us back to an improper fraction. If I want to go back to a mixed number, I would press second and hit that key again, and it takes me back to a mixed number. So I can switch between improper and mixed by pressing the second key and then pressing the ABC key, which is really me flipping between mixed and improper. All right, let's go ahead and enter another mixed number. Let's press clear to clear that out. Another mixed number would be 2 1/4. How do I enter that? I have 3 numbers this time. Easy, same button. I'm going to press 2, and then I'm going to press the ABC key, and then I'm going to press 1, and then I'm going to press the ABC key, and then I'm going to press 4. It knows when I enter 3 numbers that I am entering a mixed number. All right? So how do we enter a mixed number? How do we enter a fraction? We just press the numerator, and then we hit the second key. I'm sorry, we press the numerator, then we hit the fraction key and hit the denominator. Or we can hit, if we're doing a mixed number, we press the mixed number, we hit the fraction key, hit the whole number, the fraction key, the numerator, the fraction key, and then the denominator. All right? All right, so now let's move on. So now I want to talk, we talked about converting fractions, and I just want to play with that a little bit more. So we converted a fraction already, but let's say we want to do operations with those, fractions. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to skip this slide, and I'm going to go to the next slide. And let's do some operations with mixed numbers or with fractions. All right, so let's do number 1. How do we do number 1? Let's clear out. Let's do number 1. So if I do number 1, I'm going to do 1 1/3 plus 2 1/3. How do I enter that? 1, fraction, key, 1, fraction key, 3. If I press equal, what's going to happen? I can leave it just like this, and I can add it to my next number, which is 2 1/3. So 2, fraction key, 1, fraction key, 3. And then I press equal. And what do I get? Great. 3 2/3. How do I know that this is not a mixed improper fraction? Because of this. So this is not 32. This is 3 2/3. Remember, the L, backwards L, tells us that it's a fraction. All right. Now let's try another one. Let's say we want to multiply or subtract. Let's subtract. Let's do number 4. So let's clear this out, and let's do 9 3/8. I'm going to press 9, fraction key, 3, fraction key, 8. And then I'm going to subtract, and then I'm going to put 5, fraction key, 5, fraction key, 6. For 5 and 5, 6. And then I'm going to press equal, and it gives me 3 and 13 over 24. What happens if I press equal? Nothing. It stays 3 and 13 over 24 because this is the number in simplest form. All right. Now, let's go ahead and clear this out. Let's try the next one. If I were to multiply 15 over 4 times 12 over 5, what do we enter? Let's do 15 fraction 4 times, oh, I'm sorry, I never cleared it out, huh? Let's try it again. 15 fraction 4 times, what's that? What keeps popping up? What is this 3 3/4? Very good. That is actually the mixed number for 15 over 4. So when you press, put it in, it's going to automatically change it to a mixed number. Can I switch it back if I want? Absolutely. How do I switch back from a mixed number to a improper fraction? I would press second, and then I'm going to press my fraction key, and it will give me back my original number. But don't worry, if it changes to a mixed number on its own, that's okay. So let's press times. Oh, what did it do? what did it do? It multiplied my two numbers. I didn't mean to do that. So let's clear that out. Let's go ahead and enter what we got. So 15 fraction 4 times 12 fraction 5 equals, what is our result? Why is it giving us 9? 15 times 10 is 150. 15 times 2 is 30. So my numerator is 150 plus 30, which is 180. And then 4 times 5 is 20. So I really have, if I do 15 times 12, I have 180. And then 4 times 5 is 20. And 180 divided by 20 will be 180 over 20. But if I put that in my calculator, 180 fraction 20, what do I get? I get 9. Matter of fact, let me try something. I want to see if it switches back for us. If I do 15 fraction 4 times 12 fraction 5 equals, and then I want it to show up as a improper, will it switch back? Nope, because it simplifies for us, so no switching back. Just learned me something. All right. All right, let's do this last one. Let's do number 8. And it says 6 2/5 divided by 20. So we're going to do 6 2/5. That's 6 fraction 20 fraction key 5. And then we're going to put divided by. Why didn't that change? Because it's already a mixed number in simplest form. So it's not going to change. So divided by 20 equals, and it gives us what value? 8/25. If I want to see that in decimal form, what do? My fraction to decimal key is here. If I want to see that in decimal form, I can just hit second and hit my key, and it shows me what that is in decimal form. Second and key would give us 0.32 or 3200ths. All right. All right. So moving on from operations with fractions. Hope you got enough practice there. Let's talk about powers and roots. So in this section, we talk about squares, square roots, cubes, cube roots, the power key, any root key. So that's what we're going to do. So let's play with some problems. I want to show you a few things. So here we have the x squared key. That's this key here. Let's talk about x squared. What does squared mean? It means taking a number and multiplying it by itself. So if I were to do 3 squared, that would really be 3 times 3, which is 9. So if I do 3 and hit the x squared key, I get 9. 3 x squared key will give you the 9. And that's how we do that. I could also use, if I didn't want to use that key for square, I could also use the key that is right up under the off button. And that is our, I don't know the name of it, but it's our YX key. All right. So it's also for exponents. So let's say I press 3. I hit that key. Then I hit to the second power. So I'm pressing 2 after that. And then I press equal. And now look what it gives me. The same thing. So I can use either the square key, which tells me automatically I'm putting it to the second power, or I can use the y to the x key. Let's do 3 to the third power. Would I still use this key for cubing 3 to the third power? I wouldn't use this key because it only goes to the second power. But I can use this key. This key is y to the x. So let's do that. I'm going to do 3, hit that key, third power. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is, what do we get? It is 27. So therefore, we can use this key for any exponent, any power. We can also use, if we're doing cubes, if you look really closely, you can see right here above the 1 is x to the third power. So what I would like to do is, let's go ahead and use that key and see how that works. So if I'm cubing something, I could just simply do 3, hit second to access that key, and then press the 1, and I will get the same thing. 3 to the third power is going to be 27. All right. So again, we can press, let's clear it out. We can press 3, YX key 3, and see what that gives us, which would be 27 if we raise into the third power. Or we can simply do 3, hit the second key, and then hit the 1 key, which is accessing the cube key, and that will also give us 27. All right. Now, what is the cube root of 27? Well, if 3 times 3 times 3 is 27, then the cube root of 27 is 3. Why? Because 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. So when we're looking for cube roots, just as we do with square roots, cube roots mean what number do I multiply by itself 3 times in order to get a value. Square roots, what do I multiply by itself? That's only twice to get the square root. Or what do I multiply by itself twice to get this number? So when we're looking for a cube root, the symbol for cube root is a square root symbol, but there's a little 3 up in the corner. So I want to take you backwards now. We did 3 to the third power is 27. So now let's see what the cube root of 27 is. So if we clear this out, I'm going to put 27 in. And then I'm going to hit the second key. And I'm going to hit the 0 because I want the cube root. And when I do that, I'm going to get 3. Let's do it again. 27. Hit the cube. 27. Hit the second key. Hit 0 for cube root. And it gives us our value. 3. All right. What is the square root of 16? Well, first of all, what is the square of 16? So 4 squared is 16. 4 times 4 is 16. So that means the square root of 16 is going to be 4. So I'm going to put in 16, and I want to hit the square root key. Can you find the square root key? Hint. There's the square root key right next to the square key. So all we have to do is press the square key. Why don't we have to press second? Because it is not in green, and therefore it gives us the square root. All right. All right. So let's do a little bit of operations here. This says x squared. So let's do 6 squared. This represents 6 squared. So we're going to put 6. Hit the x squared key. Is going to give us 36. And then we're going to add to that 2. And when we do that, we're going to get 38. So that's how we do that. 6 squared plus 2. Let's do a different problem. Let's take the square root of 256 and add it to the square root of 4. So the square root of 256, what number times itself give us 256 would be 16. And then what number times itself give us 4? That would be 2. So if we do the square root of 256, and then we do the square root of 4 by hitting 4 first, and then the square root key, which is 2, and we press equal, that's going to give us what? 18. Very good. Very good. All right. Let's do the next problem, which is 2 to the third power plus 2. So how do we do that? We can do that by pressing the YX key and then adding 2, and that gives us 10. Or we can use the cube key. So we can do 2, second key, 1, because we want x to the third. So it gives us automatically what we're looking for. And then we can add 2 to that. And then we get 10. All right. Let's play a little bit further. Let's go ahead and do the cube root of 8. What number times itself gives us 8 when you multiply it 3 times? That's going to be 2. So if you take 8, we hit second, and then we hit the cube key, which is above the 0. We're going to get that. And then we can take that number as they have here and add 4. Oh, I'm sorry. Oops, I made a mistake. What do? Do I clear it all out? No, I did too much work. What do? Good. I do the delete key, back up, and I'm going to press 4, which is the right number, and then press equal. That came out great. All right. Now, why are they using this YX key instead of using either the square key or the cube key? The reason we're doing that is because we don't have a key for raising, well, this is raising 5 to the third power, but we can use the Y to the X key for anything. So let's go ahead and play with that and see what we get. If we press 5, hit the YX key, press 3, that means 5 to the third, we'll get 125. All right, and that's our answer. All right, and we can do the same thing with the XY key, but the any root key. So let's find the any root key. The any root key is, can you find it? Where do you see it? The any root key is right above the Y to the X key. So if we look right here, we see the any root key. So if you ask me to find the third root of 8, which we know is 2, because 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, then we can use that key. So how do we do that? We're going to press 8, and then we're going to press the second key and the Y to the X key, and then we want the cube root. So we're going to press 3, and then it gives us that value. So you always press the Y first because it's the number that you're trying to break up, and then it's the number that it's your product that you have, and you want to find the factor. So you're going to put in 8 first, and then we put in 3 because that's the root we're taking of that. All right. So what is the third root of 125? What is the cube root of 125? How do we do that? We enter 125. Then we press the second key because we want to access the Y to the X key, and then we're going to press enter. And what do we get? We get 5, because 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. All right, so we played with that a bit. The next thing, or the last thing that we're going to go over, is going to be scientific notation. So now with scientific notation, there's 2 buttons that we need to use for scientific notation. Scientific notation has a button called science, and it is abbreviated with SCI. So if we find that button, it's right above the 5. So if you look right above the 5, you have the SCI button, which is the scientific button, not science, scientific, scientific, I don't know. But that's the button for scientific notation, all right? Then we also have a button here, which is the EE button. Now, the EE button, you may think to yourself, E means exponent. That's true, but it's only exponent to the power of 10. So let me just explain that to you real quick. If I were to press the EE button, it is going to put 10 to whatever power I say. So if I want to know 10 to the third power, then I will press 3, and then I will hit the EE button. Oh, I'm sorry. I explained that wrong. So the EE button is times 10 to whatever power. So let's say, for example, it's all about round scientific notation. So let's say, for example, I were to give you, let's start with these problems down here. Let's say, for example, I wanted to know what was 1.2 times 10 to the third, right? Then instead of putting in 1.2 times 10 and then a 3, all I have to do is press 1.2 and then put EE3. That means times 10. And then it'll give me 1200. That is correct, because whenever you are multiplying by any power of 10, then this tells you how many times to move the decimal. And this says 3 times to the right. So I would do 1, 2, 3. And that third time to the right would cause me to have 2 zeros. So for those that are in 8th grade or any other grade and you're doing scientific notation, you will move this 3 decimal places to the right. And when you do that, then that would actually come out to be what we have here, which is 1200. All right, let's try the next one. Remember, the EE is only 4 times 10 to some power. That's what it means, times 10 to what power? All right, so let's do this. So 5, what are we going to get first of all? If I have a 5, And let me change my color here. So if I have 5 and I have a decimal place and it says times 10 to the 4th, and I'm going to move it 1, 2, 3, 4 places. That means each of these are going to be filled with zeros. So what is it actually? It's 50,000. So let's see. We do 5 and then we press EE and then we want to put the number 4 and then what do we get? Voila. 4 and we get 50,000. All right. So that's how we use that. Instead of entering times 10 to whatever power, you can just enter EE and then put the exponent and that will give you your values. So now let's look here. Let's go back here. It says write the following in scientific notation. So if I need to write this in scientific notation, I'm going to use the scientific notation button, which is SCI. So let's start with this first one. Let's go ahead and clear ourselves out. How do I know I'm all clear and have nothing in memory? Because there's nothing up here. All right, nothing at the top for us to clear out. And we know we have our DEG, which is what we need. All right, so now let's go ahead and enter in here. I'm going to enter into my calculator 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I did that wrong. Give me 1 second. I think I got ahead of myself. Oh, I didn't. So then I want you to press second and then hit psi. So when you do that, what do you see? So what is this then? It's 1.2345 times 10 to the 4th power. Again, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 10 to the 4th power, and that is how you write that in scientific notation. You cannot forget your times 10 when you are writing your responses down. Let's try another one. If I want to do 300,000 in scientific notation, do I have to do the second psi again? And I'm asking because there's still psi on the top of my screen. So if I enter 300,000 and I put equals, it's going to give me 3 and 0.5 as the exponent. How do I write that in scientific notation? That's going to be 3 times 10 to the 5th power. That is the scientific notation. You cannot just write 3 to the 5th power because that's a very, very different number. All right. So let's try again. Do I have to clear out my calculator? I mean, can I leave it with the psi on the top? Yes, it's going to stay there until I clear it all the way out. How do I clear that all the way out? I'm pressing clear, but it's not going away. How do I clear that all the way out? To clear out psi, I have to press off and then come back on. All right, but we don't want to do that right now because we're still working in scientific notation. So our last problem, let's put in 415. What is that in scientific notation? Well, if the decimal's right here, we got to move the decimal behind the 4. So it's going to be 4.15 times 10. How many times did we move the decimal? To the 2nd power. So let's see what this thing gives us. If we press equal, it gives us what? 4.15. How do we write that? Times 10 to the 2nd power. And that, folks, is scientific notation in the TI30XA calculator. Just want to give you one last note. The one thing that you never have to worry about is order of operations. And that's because anything you put into the calculator, it is automatically going to use the order of operations in the proper order if you enter everything correctly. But I would suggest when you're doing problems with order of operation in them that you enter them according to PEMDAS, which is what you're used to using. All right, so that was all for us. Last thing, how do we clear out this side? Because I want to get my calculator back fresh and brand new. I'm going to press off. And then when I press back on, it is gone. All right. Thank you so much for your time. I hope that you are better acquainted with the TI30XA calculator. Have a good day.